the mixture on the path of evolution, that there are more advanced thinking people, is never brought into focus. So you have people in a school, all he can do is dig ditches, but from the same species, another man can develop nuclear power, can become a tremendous thinker and be very creative and be um, a scientist. So you have both side by side at the same time. Now this creates, of course, some tension. Is he better or that one better? Who's better? Can we live without science or can we live without ditches? So what we have to realize is we basically need both. The ditches are for irrigation in one way, but also getting all the other stuff away that we don't use. And and to accept this, now the next conflict is the ego and the intelligence. He said, but I'm not going to be just a ditch digger. But he can't make it to be a scientist either. He hasn't that clarity of thinking, that logical persistence to go to the end, the discipline. Take the same thing on the spiritual path. It's not any different. The only difference we meet here is that become a brahmachari or a celibate or a sexually controlled person. There are these stages in between. We have to look at where does it come from. Did we bring that along from the animal kingdom? Well, the animal kingdom. If the fish could think of God, would think of a huge whale, it will always think of the great power of its own kind, a little different, but still in the same element, moving almost the same way. And so, now how do we think of that greater power? And what in the first place gets us to think that way? Where do we get the idea from? Maybe it's all accidental, as some scientists seem to believe, or it's a law of coincidence, or what have you. So we have to find out how the human beings came about to think that there is something like God, by whatever name it's in forms. Then we have to turn again back to ourselves, because we have the power of reasoning, we have the power of logic, and say, now if I look at myself, and I always say I want to know myself, what have I to find out first? Not to go anywhere, not to leave the family, run off with something. If you want, you take yourself along wherever you are. So what kind of creature am I? I'm a creature who has, like all other creatures, a body, a physical, tangible body, that has, like the dog, all the ability to listen, to see, to smell. Only I have the choice training some of my senses more, if they serve my survival better. And then, what else am I? I'm also an emotional being. The animal doesn't have any awareness of that. So here comes already a conflict. But that's only, while it appears in daily life, a big one, but it's a small one only, because the next is a bigger conflict. And this is, I am a thinking being. I can create in my mind. I can create anything. And I just have to give it the power and the time. Then my idea is like a bud. And the more I let the light of my desire and knowledge, it opens like a flower to the light. You know, if you like the sunflower, if you ever plant any sunflowers, you will see they turn with the light. But the sun moves. Lotus opens only after 4 hours straight sunlight. Too. Okay, now we are then thinking beings. But the thinking being isn't always aligned to the physical being. The thinking being has this whole bunch of needs, the emotional being has this needs, and the physical being has this needs. It's quite a job. So you are a king or a queen in your own kingdom of your own life. Now, where does the idea of spirituality and God comes from? Could it be that the human body and the brain had to reach a state of development big enough, capable enough, to perceive what we can call the divine spark? The ability to escalate consciousness to a higher level. If we look at this, we can say yes. Because strangely enough, even so-called primitives have a concept of some God. And why, in all these thousands of years, in spite of all the wars, of all the problems, of all the difficulties, of all the unreasonableness of that God or controlling power, we still believe in it. We can shake it off. And even the geneticist has to say, the idea of God must then be in the genes too. How did it get there? So is it that we have to make at one time a choice in our life to be strictly physical, human, procreative, to maintain the species, to learn lessons? The life on earth is a schoolhouse, so that if we can go through the classes till we have graduated, or where would we graduate? I think by the time we go through life's high school, we should have our emotions under control, or not have them run us. By the time we leave the university of life, we should have sufficient awareness that we can say, there is another world. So our other difficulty is we're living in the physical world, the emotional world, the intellectual thinking world. We live in the spiritual world. So we have finally even that fourth dimension. So if more people understand that, it's much easier to be easy on each other, because I can say, well, what's he going through right now? I don't know. I don't need to take it personally. It may be entirely his or her problem right now. And so and where am I now? I'm terribly upset. I'm just on the emotional level. I don't have to stay there because I have a choice. So if we become now a little wiser, and we say, and we have to say, well, my father didn't care very much for me. Well, if he came from that very first level of development, what blame can you put on him? You can't ask him for $1 million if he doesn't have even $10 in his pocket. You see what I'm saying? And that is what everybody has to go through and say, all right, I'd like to have a different father, maybe be born in a family of yogis, but this is what happened. And now I have to ask myself, where was I before I was born? Did I have to perfect my body, my mind, my brain? That means also the physical brain being the container for this consciousness. Do I have to perfect this? And did I choose this kind of parent to be free? Because if he didn't care and she didn't care much more, I don't have to feel guilty. Then if I had parents who would sure sacrifice their whole life for me, I have a strong obligation. So you can now turn that big problem that creates so much pain into something that's to your advantage. So we, by overcoming emotional needs, we are able to move on. We are not becoming great renunciates and great saints and sages, but we have to start. We can say, but university is so difficult, I don't want to go there. I don't even want to look at the building. So it is thinking through and not letting emotion stop you dead in the tracks and then be totally controlled. I will always be against that because you reverse to the animal kingdom. The animal, she's quite happy if she can lie in the sun, be warm, and line up in that hut. That's all she wants. But an animal like this would take probably 1,000,000 lifetimes before it comes close. The other aspect that you have to look, the choice is not to please me, or I had to please my guru, or to please a church, or please anybody. Where do you want to be? In the same way, if you be an actress in a theater, you only want to be the maid who opens the door and says please and thank you. Wouldn't you want to have a bigger role? So we have to, the time of reflection every day is a very, very important